I don't know, man. I thought the rat grinders could have been more interesting than what it seems like we're heading towards.
I found this episode to be enormously dissatisfying for a number of reasons. Let's start mechanically and discuss why I believe this climax failed to elicit tension. First of all, while giving the rat grinders high-level spells but maintaining base-level spats is symbolically interesting, it has the effect of creating glass cannons who can be dispatched in a single round. They might as well be minions. Which you may notice is not being threatening. Turning your big bads into losers at the end just turns them into losers. To use the wrestling side of my brain, no one gets over if you just beat up some losers. That's not an accomplishment. Secondly, homebrewing a spell that completely negates the only environmental hazard. Wait, no, it's actually far worse than that. It completely weaponizes the only environmental hazard against the villains.
Don't make up your own spells. Don't do it. This is only a hazard to my guys. Yep.
Yeah.
That is bad combat design. If your player characters can functionally take smoke breaks in jacuzzis, that does not create edge-of-your-seat tension. This entire combat actually sort of reeks of baby's first DM, despite the gymnasium pieces literally coming apart and moving. This battle feels stagnant. There's no puzzle element, unless you count moving a MacGuffin to a different location as a puzzle. And what I mean by stagnant is this encounter was straightforwardly, here are your 9 enemies, please reduce hit points to 0, congratulations, you've won the encounter! Listen, I'm no stickler for mechanics, I'm notorious amongst my group for not giving a shit about them. I'm simply laying out the groundwork for explaining why I found this climax to be boring and why my mind was free to wander and notice all of the
enormous thematic dissonance.
Look, okay, to lay out my thesis in brief and then expand upon it later, kind of like an essay, in a season about overcoming wrath with doubt, resurrecting a corrupted goddess forced to inhabit a dominion of rage back to her original state of justice, and the growing complexities of the world you come to understand as you get older, it is a mistake to do the exact same thing you did in freshman year and gleefully murder the rat grinders. That is simply out of thematic lockstep. In a season where we are meant to question authority, meant to be skeptical of the institution of the Eggford Adventuring Academy, a climax where the players focus all of their ire and cruelty on fellow students, is a mistake. The rat grinders aren't the villains. The Eggford Adventuring Academy is. That's why Vice Principal Grix, a literal symbol of authority in the school, is a villain. That's why Porter, a teacher, is the big bad. It's why the downtime mechanic is designed the way it is. To run yourself ragged and carry on with more stress, which will eventually lead you down the path of becoming Porter's rage thrall. Because as Porter rightfully points out,
why the fuck would you defend this place that runs you ragged, sends you out lost your summer, chasing a night york, doesn't give a fuck about you?
He is correct. Being a villain does not remove your ability to have object permanence. It's very often what makes villains interesting. When they have points, the best villains are the ones who challenge the heroes intellectually. Giving your heroes an internal conflict that is mirrored by an external threat. And look, yes, I get it. It is a time-honored tradition for players to ignore the big bad's final speech. I do it all the time. However, there is a world of difference between ignoring a big villain monologue and not engaging with the themes the DM has laid out. And speaking of engagement, why don't I real quick acknowledge some responses I've seen to critiques of this finale? That way you don't have to comment them because argumentative comments stress me out. It's a silly improv show. What did you expect? Okay, look, listen. This section of the video has the potential to come off more disrespectful on my part, and for that, I would like to preemptively apologize. There is an entire mode of fictional engagement that is simply saying, I like to exist in a space with characters I enjoy spending time with. It's why I like Azumanga and a large part of what I like about IDW's run on Gem and the Holograms. And this mode of fictional engagement can become further compounded when engaging with real play content, because you are, in a very literal sense, watching 5 friends hang out. And if that's what you want out of the show, hell yeah, dope. It did exactly what you wanted. But to this comment, I would respond, this is not the mode I engage with Dimension 20. And if I am going to give your mode of engagement credence and grace, you must in turn do the same to me. And this is the part where things might become disrespectful, because if you believe real play content is incapable of telling cohesive stories, it reveals how little you respect both the medium and the artists in question. Watch Season 1 of Dungeons and Daddies. Watch Dark Dice. Watch Friends of the Table. Hell, watch other seasons of Dimension 20. This is the same team that produced A Crown of Candy, which has my favorite ending in D20 history, by the way. And we're gonna plug that away for later. I am simply holding them to the standards they set for themselves, and high standards are not a bad thing, especially because Dimension 20 is a product made by professionals that you pay real-world money for. And I did have something written up, but then I realized halfway through writing it that Lady Emily already covered this point better than I ever could have in her AVGN video, so I'm just going to play the audio from that wholesale, and we're going to slowly zoom in on a tweet a friend of mine made.
James Rolfe isn't our friend, and we shouldn't be treating him and his projects as if he is. It's one thing to be supportive of a creator that you like and want them to do things that make them happy, but it's another thing to talk about their work like they're a buddy of yours doing a hobby you support. James is a 40-year-old man who has been in the media creation business for close to 20 years now. He is a professional. He should be used to putting his work out there, and honestly deserves to have that work treated with respect, and respect is very different from blind support and encouragement.
The Rat Grinders tried to kill the bad kids first, so the bad kids are justified in their actions. So we acknowledge that students killing students is in fact wrong? That taking away your opponent's ability to revivify is in fact bad?
Make sure to cut his head off so he can't be revivified.
What did he say?
Because if that's the thing the Rat Grinders did that you don't like, why so do the bad kids get a free pass to engage in the same behavior? If the answer is simply because you like the bad kids, I would ask you to interrogate that feeling. Did you just want the bad kids and the Rat Grinders to hold hands and sing Kumbaya? No, we'll actually save my perfect ending for later. But come on guys, this is Fantasy High, a series where the previous seasons had already shown us the benefits of reformative justice and grace when given to both primary antagonists and NPCs. Rog Barkrock, Jawbone O'Shaughnessy, Eowyn Abernathy. It is such an indictment of this final fight that Rog shows up because he too was a kid manipulated by the adults around him into being a bad guy. He's part of the reformed villain squad. Rog was a teen who was manipulated by an authority figure from the school into bringing about the apocalypse. You know, like the Rat Grinders. Eowyn has done significantly worse things and has far more confirmed kills on the board than any of the Rat Grinders, and she gets a redemption arc. And for Jawbone, I'm just gonna play this clip from the horse's mouth.
He could be very damaged and hurt, and no one could blame him for not trying to help. And also, I think it was a favorite little moral of mine, that he was just someone who needed a break. And it's just you guys being like, we're going to recommend you for a job at our school. And it's like, wow, that one lucky break let me kind of, I don't know. I think that a political and moral belief in luck is necessary for being a good person in this world, where so much is controlled by factors outside of your conscious influence.
Were it not for the positive intervention of the bad kids, Jawbone's life never would have turned around. Hell, it's literally how sophomore year ends, reaching out through darkness and despair because you still believe there is good in people's hearts. It is not wildly out of left field to assume a season set up to be about the concept of reformative justice and how this school is bad to have the two kids who have the most been fucked over by this school to find common cause in the end. You're just upset because they killed your precious Smorbos. Yes and no. Here's a quick example to highlight the difference. Me being upset that Zelda Donovan is not featured in this season is an example of me being upset that my precious Smorbo doesn't get enough screen time. It's an entirely emotional reaction because this season is not about relationship drama and it's not the center of Gorgug's emotional turmoil, ergo, it gets no screen time. Me being upset that I find the gleeful murder of the rat grinders to be out of thematic step for what the season has been up to this point is me being analytical. And yes, cards on the table, I don't think it feels good to watch the rat grinders die. Let me explain why, starting by comparing it to an ending I find to be enormously satisfying and thematically cohesive, A Crown of Candy. Just plugging that pin right out. Firstly, A Crown of Candy is not a dissertation on the many forms justice can take, so if everything boils down to retribution, it doesn't feel like a misstep. Secondly, there is a revelry around defeating these villains because the circumstances in which they are killed are in fact different. The lack of interiority plays to the show's benefit. It's not that we don't understand their motivations, why Brassica or Carradine Deeproot are who they are, but they're characters who are kept at an arm's length. Also, the cruelty displayed by these villains is just not comparable to what the Rat Grinders did. The villains in A Crown of Candy murdered children in cold blood. They spend the entire season tracking down and attempting to kill our protagonists, whereas the Rat Grinders were just kinda jerks. Never forget that this beef, from the bad kids' perspective, started because Kipper Lily Copperkettle has a funny name and ambition.
Hi, I'd like to sign up to run for class president. And you see Maisie says...
Kipper Lily Copperkettle?
What are you, like 4 different dogs? I don't know why, but I've gone so aggro. Like, this is the kind of energy that, like, really gets me going as someone with, like, ADHD and, like, failing grades. I'm just like...
My point being that the villains of A Crown of Candy are truly loathsome, and very importantly, adults in full control of their actions, so it feels good when they get their comeuppance. I bring up the adult thing because if you don't know, your brain is not fully done developing until you are an adult. The part of your brain that registers consequences isn't finished until you are 27. Carradine Deeproot is in full control of his actions when he executes a helpless Lupin and Preston. Whereas the Rat Grinders are children who have been manipulated by an authority figure in their life since they were freshmen. I wished there were a word for that. If only language was so advanced. If only. Furthermore, the fact that the Rat Grinders have 9th level spell slots but maintain base level stats create the feelings that they're just losers, getting picked on by the most popular kids in school. You know, that thing the villains of freshman year did. The bad kids don't get a free pass to do bad things just because they're characters I like. There are lots of words I can and will use to explain this, but to put it in the simplest phrase, it didn't feel good to watch Ruben die like that. Remember when I said a lack of interiority in A Crown of Candy played to the show's advantage? Because that is not the case with Ruben. We visit his dreams, and the final read on him before the climax is that he's scared. His dying words are, "Why are you killing my friends?" Ask from a girl he's had a crush on the whole season. Who he thought was dead, by the way. Hey, remember that 32 Emily rolled on a performance check for faking her death and how Brennan said we'd come back to that? Crazy how we just never did. One could say that that is bad DMing, because it is. Kind of like Emily wasted her entire season, but hey man, that's just a crazy observation from an internet asshole. Not like a thing anyone said at the table. And it was so fucking rushed. What was it talking about? Right, Ruben! Fuck did he do to you? Why does he deserve this? Ruben's crimes include being a little rude to Fig, making music Fig specifically doesn't like. And let me check my notes real quick. Just want to make sure I got everything. Oh! Not wanting to die at 16. Man, life hasn't even started when you're 16. Most people haven't even had sex yet. No, god damn it, I have to talk about Fabian. Everything about Ruben's death feels bad in a general sense. I don't think the punishment fits the crime. I'm not laughing along with the players. I think it's out of lockstep. Ivy's stuff feels bad in more of a real-world violence against women sort of way. I just,
You had your chance to live.
Don't like that.
And now I'm gonna skin you alive.
For why?
I'll tell you right now, I'm gonna lose my virginity to that girl. On a rug I make from your skin.
Okay, nope. Okay, nope. Hate this. Capital H, hate. Don't like the implications of had your chance to live. What were the chances, Fabian? If she'd have kissed you? Look, you can't end a call to violence by explicitly bringing sex into this and not have me think that this is sexually motivated. Fabian's interactions with Ivy have been hit on her and get rejected. Hate that now it's a motif of Fabian one-shotting women who reject him. That's so cool. Look, listen, if you're someone who can ignore these implications, even though the tenor of the relationship has been Fabian bringing it into a sexual context, I would ask again, is this something Ivy deserves? Her crimes include not wanting to play Twister at a party. Yeah, I'd also rather be doing drugs and having sex. Being a little rude to Maisie, and not being interested in a guy who didn't know what he wants, because Fabian is playing both sides of the field, trying to hit on both Ivy and Maisie. God forbid a woman stand on business. So with all that in mind, can you understand why I think it's nowhere near as satisfying to watch the villains of A Crown of Candy get dispatched with as it is to watch the rat grinders get gleefully murdered? Which I know is a phrase I've hearkened back to several times, but I really need to impress upon you the lack of reservation, the sheer delight on display from the intrepid heroes as they murder these fictional children. And it is at this point that you may be wondering, Devin, why do you care so much about the rat grinders? They're barely in the season. They're one-note villains at best. And real quick, not to bore you with a quick dissertation on the history of French art criticism and divulge into the concept of the purpose of an author function, but rather to posit that we are familiar with Barthes' argument that the author is in fact dead. Because death of the author is not simply a free pass to enjoy art made by a bad person, but an understanding that authorial intent is not the end-all be-all of the art in question. There's an entire philosophy of artistic engagement that says art does not become art until a second person or an audience is there to react to it. This is a philosophy I subscribe to. If you create the most awe-inspiring oil painting but no one sees it, there is no point. The value of art is how it can affect you, which is an entirely subjective experience, because spoilers, that's how art works. That's what a review is. Art, like people, exists in a context. Human beings do not exist in featureless white voids waiting for art to be shot in so it may be reviewed entirely on its own merits with omni-objectivity. A review is entirely dependent on the person writing it. Who you are and where you were at the time is inexorably linked to your critique. The baggage you bring to art? That's text, baby! And the online space I was in while watching junior year was one very invested in the rat grinders. I'm stalling. There is one piece of art I'm talking about. An illustration by Cloudmancy. I find it to be equal parts disturbing and alluring. No matter how deep the seeds of discontent are sown within me, I can't look away. It depicts a freshly slain and pointedly not resurrected Lucy Frostblade being cradled by Kipperlily, and the caption reads,
"Lucy, you're coming back to us too, right? To me?"
just fuck me, man. This image irrevocably altered my perception of Kipperly Copperkettle, of the Rat Grinders in general. I do not care how hard Brennan tried to make them one-dimensional villains in the Twilight Hour. They're just kids, man. Kids whose, as described in the text of the show, childish rage was taken advantage of by an adult with devious intentions until it was twisted into something cruel and unrecognizable. I wonder if that sounds like anyone else in the campaign. Kids who are rightly mad at this shitty school ran by a literal madman because the Eggford Adventuring Academy is in fact bad. If 2 out of your 3 years the solution to the problem is students must kill other students, congratulations, you've made a bad school. You're not supposed to cheer for the part of Hunger Games or Battle Royale where the kids kill the other kids. And yes, of course, a physical confrontation had to arise. That's how conflict resolution in D&D works. But did it have to look like this? Wouldn't a post-battle team-up between the 2 groups of kids who have been the most abused by this school make more sense? Come on, where's my Pokemon the First Movie type beat? And whilst your delicious gooey brain is contemplating alternative endings, I'd like to pull out that other pin and talk about how I would have ended this. First of all, I'd have had the fight between the Rat Grinders and the Bad Kids before the final climax with Porter. That way you still get a sense of urgency, and it's like, we've spent all of our spell slots, we're going into the big fight, already spent, oh no! Secondly, if we must keep the Rat Grinders having base-level stats, I would introduce some sort of puzzle element. The Rat Grinders get free auto-res until you solve the puzzle. And if we're being fully self-indulgent, allow me to paint you a picture of how I would have ended this had Fantasy High been a novel that I was writing. Picture in your beautiful mind's eye. The battle has carried on for hours. The only 2 left standing are Gorgug Thistlespring of the Bad Kids and Marianne Scuttle of the Rat Grinders, the 2 most optimized for long-form combat. It requires every ounce of will their bodies can muster and simply not to collapse, breathing, staggered, arms heavy, legs weak, adrenaline fading. And it is only in between belabored swings of their great axes that our barbarians find themselves overseeing their surroundings, recognizing the bodies of fallen enemies and allies. Some making death saves, others having lost them. The history books don't tell us who spoke first, only that one asked the other, "What's even the point of this?" To which the other could only respond, "I don't even know anymore." A brief, brilliant flash, an awesome purple light engulfs the entire gymnasium. In this moment of doubt, the shards of Kristen's goddess find the power to excise the rage shard embedded within Marianne Scuttle. Or, something like that, because when you introduce doubt to conquest, you get revolution, you get clarity, and then we would have, used those season-long MacGuffins for, a thing in the ending. Wouldn't have that been cool? Obviously, it doesn't have to be my exact vision, but doesn't overcoming wrath with doubt feel more thematically cohesive? And why not combine that metaphor with the biggest plot MacGuffins for the season? And whilst we are talking about crystals, allow me to be crystal clear. I'm not saying the only way to improve the season would have been more Rat Grinders content. Trust you me, I am spoiled with a deluge of Rat Grinders content. Sure, I think their function as foils is a little underserviced if we never compare and contrast them to the Bad Kids through actions and dialogue, but those are minor gripes. You may not believe this, but I actually loved this season right up until the final 3 episodes when everyone just seemed to have forgotten the story that they were telling. And it all divulged into a big murder fiesta. The point I'm making is that the season was so clearly set up to end with the Bad Kids reach out to their adversaries with kindness and understanding, but instead could only meet them with violence. And no, I don't count a literal deus ex machina as the Bad Kids having compassion for the Rat Grinders. They made it transparently clear that they did not want to resurrect them except for Lucy Flossblade and Marianne Scuttle. And with all of that in mind, the final message I'd like to leave you with is this. Here's my fantasy high Sona. I had like a lot of rage issues back in high school, so Barbarian makes sense. I saw someone say that we all can't be like wizard and theater kids. Someone's got to, deal damage, and that's me, baby. I want a group of cool art friends to go on like make fun adventures. Please let me in your adventure party. Please, come on, man. It'd be so cool. Come on. And if you thought the ending to this video felt slapdash and off topic, congratulations, babe. You get the point. Totally not editing this in after the fact because I planned from inception to hire a voice actor for this video. Oh my god, shout out to Katy motherfucking Johnson, forever and always. My Kimberly Copperkettle, you breathed the exact amount of life I needed for that section of the project. Can't say enough nice things. The only negative side to this entire interaction and process of hiring a fucking professional was that I couldn't use every take you gave me. That's things I'm going to talk about on the auto commentary track. So, plug for that. Anyways, back to your regularly scheduled shoutouts. Christ almighty, this one felt rambly. Thanks for sticking around, folks. I'm gonna do some shoutouts to some D20 Twitter people. Sorry if I get your name wrong. I'm kind of bad at reading. First and foremost, shout out Cloudmancy. Your art just had a truly profound impact on me and this season. Most of the time, if I feature fan art in my videos, I just kind of give a little credit so people know where to find them. But this one felt so integral to the piece as a whole, I felt a need to reach out and ask for permission to use your art. So thank you so much. Also, pretty sure you were the first person on Twitter I saw who had complicated feelings about the ending. So, thanks for that spark as well, bud. Lauren Marty, I'm getting that one fucking wrong. I'm so sorry. No one's ever said my last name right, so I get it. I just can't fucking read. Anyways, thank you so much. You have no idea and will never fully understand what your Kipperfrost art has meant to me specifically, and the amount of friends I have sent that art to with no context, because almost no one in my real life watches D20, but everyone has seen that art. I love it so much. If Cloudmancy was the first time I thought about Kipperlily differently, this art kept that read consistently in my mind. Squibs, fantastic Twitter follow. If you don't follow them already, what are you doing? You're missing out. Just nothing but bangers, great takes. Thank you. A big inspiration for what this video looks like. Sam, aka Candlestuck, one half of the co-host of a podcast of Candy. Shout out. Again, if you aren't following them, god damn it, you're wrong. You're wrong and dumb. Go follow them. But again, your Twitter feed just really influenced what this video looks like and my understanding of this season of A Crown of Candy. Thank you so much. And then, hey, Andrew, buddy, the host of Complicated Women podcast, thank you. Used your tweet in this one specifically, but can't wait to be on the podcast. Thanks everyone who was shouted out here and other people whose names have been lost to retweets. Just had a fantastic time not jiving with how this season of the show ended. Here's my Twitter. We're just gonna hold it up right now. Go follow me on other social medias. Please do the things that make the YouTube algorithm happy. Like, comment, subscribe, comment and tell me I'm wrong. Comment and tell me I'm dumb and wrong, because engagement, even if negative, is still engagement, baby. Give me your wrong takes about how the Bat Grinders suck. Oh, I said Bat Grinders. Jesus Christ, I'm tired and I'm rambling. Thank you all so much for watching. I really can't appreciate it enough. I'm thankful. I'm gonna go now. Thank you, love you, bye.